information of what's happening. Rick, obviously, this is the big breaking news. First one, obviously, congratulate you over a very successful weekend at the Kennedy Center that we saw. That was a great moment. You know, I would have loved to have been there, you know, for Les Mis, but it's okay. No offense there, Rick, but no, it was it looked like
come up anytime you want.
I know, open invite, I'm sure. But Rick, this is a big moment here, and I think, look, there's people who voted for President Trump who look at this and say, hey, we voted for no wars and no more conflict. But at this moment, I mean, America is not directly involved. But for those people who are concerned about that, I wanted to get your thoughts on these specific strikes that are happening.
Well, look, Donald Trump has been very clear. He's also an extreme realist. And what he has been saying for the last 60 days to Iran is, let's talk. He's been offering carrots to say, come to the table and let's talk. We want to make sure that we are communicating directly. We want to have a peaceful resolution. But when Israel calls and says we're threatened, it's our neighborhood, and we're the target of Iran more than anyone else, it doesn't really matter what the United States is going to say in response, because Israel is a sovereign nation. They coordinate with their great ally, America, in certain ways. But Marco Rubio and President Trump made it clear that this was unilateral action. This was the actions of the Israelis, and it was not the action of America. And that we continue, Donald Trump continues in the midst of all of this to be a realist, to say, look, there's still a second chance here. You've got a lot of dead leaders. You have been funding terrorism. Why don't we talk about this issue? Why don't we try to come to some sort of a diplomatic solution? So I still see President Trump doing exactly what President Trump does best, which is to give people an off-ramp, to give countries an off-ramp. They're dealing with the consequences that Israel has put forward. And certainly the United States knew what was going to happen, but this was unilateral action. And now President Trump comes in and says, I continue to be the president for peace. I want to talk about peace. You just have got to take the talks.
Rick, when you look at what Israel carried out, this will be studied, I'm sure, by militaries around the world for strategy. But the sheer scope of what they were able to pull off, both with Mossad on the ground, the reports are, with drone capabilities and targeted precision missiles to take out the air defenses of Tehran before the Israeli jets got there, and then being able to take out so many leaders at the same time of destroying many of these nuclear facilities. This was one of the most impressive operations that definitely in our lifetime, maybe in history, because of the technology that's available now. What was your take on when you saw this as it was unfolding?
Well, certainly you're correct that it was deep and detailed. I want to be a little bit careful. I was the former DNI, but the point is well taken that this operation was done from inside Iran by the Israelis. And so it would lead one to say, you know, how long have they been inside? What were they doing? And what is that strategy? But it was done from the inside. And again, this was unilateral action from Israel. This was something that the president was trying to avoid, President Trump. And what we try to tell every single country that we're having conflict with is that there is a path for talks. We want to do diplomacy. This is a president who doesn't start conflicts, and he didn't start this conflict.
Right. And Rick, you spent a lot of time at the UN. My brother is there just coming up next week, and he's been in our European office for a long time. We know how their response has been to Israel when they've taken any sort of, not even only preemptive attacks, but have taken any sort of attacks. It's always that they seem to get slammed. What do you expect the UN to respond when Iran is claiming this, hey, this is a declaration of war?
Well, look, there's 15 members of the Security Council, and 5 of them have vetoes, so 5 of them can stop any action of the Security Council. What happens in the General Assembly is a different story, because that's non-binding resolution, so it just kind of means that they pronounce on a piece of paper. But the Security Council is much different, and that has a Chapter 7 resolution potential to it, which means military action is authorized. I don't see that there's going to be much action from the UN, because the United States has a veto. It's the Trump administration. We don't have to worry about the Biden administration. So what that means is there will be common sense resolutions that pass if something is one-sided or trying to go after one country for blame. I think you'll see the United States act against that.
Rick, we haven't seen a large response from Iran yet. There was a report that about 100 drones were launched from Iran. All of them were intercepted by all reports. But obviously, the Iranian leadership is in chaos right now, unsure of what's coming next or even how to defend themselves right now as their air defense systems are taken out. But I would bet that they are planning some sort of response. What should we be looking out for as the world watches this? Many people concerned it will spread or become more aggressive and involve other nations. But what would you say we should be watching for in the days ahead?
Well, first of all, let's be clear about one thing: is Iran has money. Joe Biden gave them tens of billions of dollars and sanctions relief, cash, and credit. So they have the money to continue their terrorist ways. And we know over the last 2 years, they've been funding the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah yet again. And so we know they have cash. We know they have the desire to fund terrorism. And so we have to take their pronouncements seriously, because they can foment violence and cause death through terrorism. But one thing that is clear is that we have a President Trump, not a President Biden. And President Trump is watching this in real time. You can go to his truth, and he is fully engaged and briefed. And he is telling the Iranians, if there's one thing that you need to be clear on, it's don't touch the United States. Now, that's not just a threat from Joe Biden, which is like a no, which is what he usually says is just no, don't do it. But this is a credible threat. People know, countries know, leaders know that when Donald Trump says this, that he means it and that he will act quickly. This is not going to be something that you throw to the State Department or the Pentagon to ask some deputy assistant secretary to look into it. This is an act. It will happen fast. And the Iranians are very clear. The Iranian regime is very clear about Donald Trump being a credible threat.
Rick, one thing, and I know you always tell me not to watch CNN or read the New York Times, but I guess I have a bad habit. It's hard to break. But I was watching their coverage, and I was seeing them try to force this narrative that Israel doing this is sticking it to Trump. They are clearly showing there's division between them, when in reality, first of all, there's no way that there would not have been at least knowledge, and that's even in the reporting now, that the administration knew something was coming. But even now, even with President Trump's statements, they're trying to start this narrative that this is now the ultimate breakup between the president and Israel. But it doesn't seem that way when you read the statements coming from the administration themselves.
Yeah, look, President Trump knows that there are two sovereign nations, Israel and the United States, and we sometimes can disagree on tactics, but we both agree that the Iranians should not have a nuclear weapon. This was a unilateral action from Israel. We've made that clear. And President Trump is somebody who is now dealing with the reality on the ground. He's not trying to do wishful thinking. And he is focused on protecting American assets, Americans, our military, and has made it very clear that if the Iranians make a move, America will defend itself. This is something that is extremely clear. And so I think we're lucky to have President Trump, a leader who is watching this, has the capability to understand it, and will act quickly.
Because one of the reasons we even have an office in Jerusalem, it's why it's ACLJ is there in Jerusalem. It's not a separate Israeli version of it. It's just again, kind of similar situation. Make sure that we're watching, that we're keeping ourselves informed, that we know what's going on, and that we can work with our friends in Israel, because it's important for America to have a voice there. And that's one of the things we're doing right now. We're saying, hey, this weekend, if you're supporting the work of the ACLJ, you're kind of standing up and saying, yes, you think we need to be there. We need to be in Jerusalem. We need to have these offices. We've only got about 30 seconds, Rick, before that. But I think it's important to have these, to remember, though the borders of the United States certainly exist, we got to make sure our message gets out.
Well, I've been to the ACLJ office in Jerusalem. It's a serious office. It's something that is needed. We have Americans there that are coordinating policy. These are very serious issues. They're life and death. They're terrorism related. And so having an organization like the ACLJ, which does action, not just words, there on the ground and getting the most credible, fastest information possible and getting it back to America is very good important for policymakers.
Very important, Rick.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.